How would you describe the current global challenges to birth registration?
Well, on the one hand, birth registration, one could say, is a fundamental right of all children, and that is contained in a number of treaties, including the Convention on the Rights of the Child. So it's quite established that states have an obligation to register all children born on its territory. That's different from the issue of citizenship, by the way. But it is the first step also to ensuring the rights of children, because if your birth is not registered, you may not be able to prove that you have the right to be educated, to go to school, to have access. So it is a fundamental right for children, and there have been many efforts, in fact, to try to ensure that that right is protected. And in fact, I would say that that has been generally fairly successful. In most countries, there are measures in place to try to ensure all children who are born there, are registered.
What are the human rights implications to lack of birth registration?
Well, if your birth was not registered, you may not be able to prove your legal personality, your connection, for example, inside a country. So that may mean that you simply will not be permitted to go to public school or to have access to public health. So it really means that if you cannot demonstrate your connection to a country by not being able to show that you were born there, this can be an almost complete barrier to accessing education, public health, a whole variety of services. You might not even be able to buy property, or the situation goes on and on. The consequences go on and on. So I think it is important to understand that registration of birth should be is the first step to be able to perhaps to show a connection inside a country, and after that have access to all kinds of services. Because if you cannot demonstrate that connection, that presence, that birth, then you are considered not to have the legal personality or the ability to exert those kinds of rights.
You mentioned the difference between citizenship and birth registration. Can you talk more about that?
On the one hand, in some countries, if you're born in that country, you automatically become a citizen. So that's an important aspect. But in a number of countries, that's not true. You don't automatically become a citizen if you're born there. So the birth registry in that case, in one case, is important to prove citizenship. In the other case, even if you're not a citizen, even though you're born in the country, being born in the country and having that registered will create the legal personality that you are entitled perhaps to have certain rights, human rights, respected as a child who is present in that country and born in that country. You might automatically have the right to education, for example, even though you're not a citizen if you're born there and living in that country. So the birth registration is a fundamental document or evidence that you have a connection to a country, that you were born there, and that you may be entitled to certain rights. In some cases, you might even also be entitled to citizenship. Hence, birth registration is the absolutely first essential step to either obtaining or proving citizenship, or to proving that you have a connection to the state and are entitled to certain rights, such as perhaps education or healthcare.